Okay, one of the things that, why did I make this presentation? Because when I was the director of Staatsolie, we promised ourselves to transform Staatsolie and to start looking for oil aggressively offshore. So when we made that transition, we said to ourselves, wow, you know, but let's say we really hit, what will happen? So Staatsolie had to prepare themselves, and we did. We prepared ourselves, we made an offshore department, we hired an expatriate director to lead it. A lot of young people went into the offshore department and everything went okay. And when we hit oil, we were ready. We did a whole session for the business society, and the business society on a certain moment started picking it up. And I don't want to say that they are completely ready, but they were like almost ready. And then the government, 9 years ago, I started pounding on them, guys, you have to prepare. Because if you don't prepare, it will go wrong. And did they prepare? No. I said, you have to prepare before we start finding oil. They didn't prepare. Then we found oil. I said, we have to prepare before we have the first discovery. They didn't prepare. I said, we have to prepare before the first FID. They didn't prepare. So now we have a new government, and if I hear the president talking, I mean, she's talking about preparing. So that's very positive. But we have to be prepared before first oil comes out of the ground, because when the money starts flowing in, we will start spending, and then we will not prepare anymore. So, when I was speaking to the political parties, anytime I saw them, I said, guys, you have to prepare, you have to prepare. And then FID came, and the director of the institute, who is a very good friend of mine, she said in her speech that when she was driving down to FID, the newspaperman came to her car. And when the newspaperman came to her car, she said, I am going to the FID. And then the guy asked, what is that? But before she could explain, it was green, so she was driving off. And while she was driving off, she said, you know, I wonder how the wisdom that we will get by signing this FID will also be beneficial for the newspaperman. And bam, that was my presentation. So that was the 1st of October, 2024. And I made a presentation immediately after that together with her. And I said, how can we really bring this message over in order for the people to understand what will happen? When Jean-Luc asked me, do you want to give this presentation for the social media conference? I said to myself, but is this the audience to say that? What can I say about social media and that will at least catch your attention? And then I put in one slide differently, and that is this slide. I just picked up I print screen 2 of my LinkedIn postings. And when I put a LinkedIn post on oil and gas, it hits between 10,000 and sometimes even 50,000 hits. So 50,000 people, I can reach 50,000 people with one post. It's unbelievable. Now today I will meet about 400 or 500 people. But if you do the same thing on LinkedIn, you can reach a lot more. And I mean, that's very impressive. When when Tessa Sedar, who most of the people know, who are from Suriname, saw my presentation, she said, on the next presentation I come and I will make a movie on it and I will put it on YouTube and Facebook. She got an awful lot of hits. Today I spoke with two people and I said, did you see my presentation? He said, yes, I saw it on YouTube. So that's the power that we have now, that if we want to give a message, the message comes over. But okay, let me go to the boring part. And that is oil and gas. Because a lot of is said of oil and gas, but I see a lot of young people in the room, and I can tell you, this presentation is goddamn important for you to understand that you can do something, and you have to do something, because otherwise it will be Suriname as we know it today. It will be completely different. I don't want to say, but you will see that in the presentation. But we have to go back on oil and gas. I will go very quick over the technical part. Oil and gas, I don't know if you can read the bottom, but oil and gas will be part of the energy mix for 100 years to come. We have to understand that. I mean, a lot of people say, you have a lot of different looks on how the world will act and react. I mean, you cannot see that, but you have the red line and the green line and the black line. The black part is the oil that we are pumping today, and oil has this very strange habit that it loses 10% of its production every year. So if we don't find new oil, then we will follow the black line. If we don't find new gas, and we don't explore for new gas, and we don't develop new gas, we will follow the green line. If Trump comes into power, we will follow the red line for oil demand. And the supply side is the black. So we will have an enormous black gap. And the same comes for gas. But gas is the future transition of our energy. So oil declines 10% year on year. The world has to keep looking for oil. We have to keep developing, because otherwise there will be a demand gap, and we will not have enough energy to supply the world with energy. And a lot of people think that energy is all about what you put in the cars or electricity. But energy is also necessary to make cement, to make aluminium, to make iron. You know, all these things, all the development in the world is based on energy. And everybody thinks that, you know, the United States and Europe are the demand side, but it's only 800 people. 7 billion people still have an energy deficit. So even though the energy mix will change, the request or the demand for oil and gas will remain high. Where do we stand in Suriname? It is also important to know. This one I made especially for the politicians, to say that the legal framework for oil and gas sector in Suriname is very strong. And everything points, the constitution, the mining degree, the petroleum law, the production sharing agreements, and the mandate agreement that Staatshoofd gave to she points into one direction. You want to talk about petroleum or gas. You want to talk about hydrocarbons. By law, you have to be a Staatshoofd. So, a minister of natural resources, even a president, cannot sign an agreement with other oil company or with another company, or can say we can participate on behalf of. No, you have to go through Staatshoofd. So that's a very strong legal framework that we have, and that is good because that gives a lot of certainty to the people that want to invest in Suriname. investments, believe me, are tens of billions of dollars before they will get one penny out. So that is an awful lot of money. So they have to get trust that the agreements that we make will stand. That is why I always show this slide. What is the power of Suriname? We keep to our contracts, even though we sign awful contracts. And we did sign some awful contracts in the past with the bauxite mining companies. The Brokopondo agreement is used in law as one of the worst contracts that a multinational made with the country because of the last 75 years. We don't know what is happening in 75 years. But Suriname never broke it over. And the same with all the oil companies that we make the contracts with, they know that we keep ourselves to the contracts. I don't want to say that we are not like Africa, but we are not. So that gives them comfort. And the comfort is why they look for oil in Suriname. I mean, during my period, there were companies that spent billions of dollars in exploration, didn't find anything and left before we had the first oil farm. I can talk about Daikuku of Japan, I can talk about Philo, I can talk about Cosmos. They didn't find, they left without spending an awful lot of money in Suriname. So it is high risk, but also on the other hand, high reward. We have our leader framework, which starts only and our know-how, and especially our people. Our people, we have more than 1,200 hours. I'm sorry, because I'm not staff only anymore, but I still feel staff only. Our people are working for 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, only on oil and gas. So that is one of our strengths. And the other strength is, I don't want to elaborate too much on that because I can elaborate. I can also give a presentation on carbon credits and our nature, but we are the only country in the world that can be proven carbon neutral produce oil. The only country in the world. And we want to keep that. Yeah. Because that is our future. Remember that our future is our pristine rainforest. 50 years from now, that will be our natural resource that is infinite. Yeah. All the other ones are. What have we so far? So far we have like 9 oil discoveries and gas discoveries. 2 of these 9 are going into execution. So 2 of the 9 are in FID. There are still 7 out there without being developed. So this slide I am showing because there is more to come. A lot of people focus only on the Gran Morgu project that everybody heard about, but there is more to come. And we should understand that. This is not the only thing that is coming up at us. The tsunami that is coming is huge. And everybody talks about Suriname as being an oil country, but we are also a gas country. If you look at the gas that we found so far, we are about 14 trillion cubic feet. We can go to 28 and maybe we can go to 50. I'm not going to explain what is a TCF, but if you look at the other side, 40 TCF is about more than Trinidad has at this moment. 28 is about what Australia, Oman, and the Netherlands have. 50 is about what Libya and Malaysia have. So it's a huge amount of gas that we have out there, already found. So what will happen is if you look at the first, that's already there, right? October 2024, I made this presentation in October 2024. We had the first FID, we had the development, first oil will come somewhere in 2028. But immediately after that, we have 2 appraisals going on with Petronas This one was still with Exxon, but Exxon left at the moment, so it is only Petronas. Why did Exxon leave? A lot of people are asking, why did Exxon leave? Because our petroleum sharing contracts are very harsh. Suriname will get about 60 to 70% of the oil wealth. Suriname will get that. In Guyana, at this moment, they only get 12%. So Exxon said, Jesus, if I'm going to develop here, Guyana will most probably tell me, guys, if you can do that for Suriname, you can also do that for me. Let's break over the contract. So they left, but the first FID is coming there. And I think that first FID, I heard Anand, our CEO of Stars, already said that he expects that to be even in 2026. So he expects that to come in June, July 2026. And that means that we will have gas, first gas, somewhere in 2030. What they do very smart is that they do an oil development immediately after that. And why do I say smart? Because when you pump up oil, you also produce a lot of gas. Normally, way in the past, they were flaring the gas, but nowadays they have to re-inject it into the wells, which is costing a horrible amount of oil. But if I have a floating LNG plant just beside it, I can just bring it to the LNG plant, so I don't have to put it back into the ground, and I can make money out of it. So we expect the oil development to come not long after the gas development, and that's 1, 2, 3. And I always say there will be something. At this moment, Chevron and Qatar are exploring, they are drilling a well. You see, most probably in 2026 they will know if it is it. If that one hits, it will be a very fast FID, because that's not in deep water at 6 kilometers and things like that, but that's in 75 meters of water. So very easy development. So what I'm saying is, not only one FID is coming, but more. What does this mean in money? Because that is what everybody wants to know. And remember, I made this presentation for the politicians. What does this mean in money and in terms of GDP and GDP per capita? When I made this presentation, the budget of 2024 that was submitted by the Minister of Finance was that the Minister of Finance would get $1.2 million, $1.2 billion in income. Remember, 400 million of the 1.2 is already from oil, that's from Sasso. Total told me that because they will develop, the economy will grow with 3 to 5%. So I put the 3 to 5% in the top line. But then in 2028, suddenly 1.5 billion will come. So suddenly, from one day to another, income will double. If the other developments will come after that, in the coming 10 years, the income of the Minister of Finance will be times 6. That's only of oil, not of the spin-off of the economy that will come after that. But only of oil will be the net income of the Minister of Finance will be times 6. Can you imagine if you close your eyes and your boss will tell you, tomorrow that your income will be, net income will be multiplied by 6 in the coming 5 to 6 years. This is what is happening with Suriname. And we are not preparing. If you look at the GDP and the GDP per capita, and the GDP per capita is important, the GDP per capita will jump up to most probably between 30 and 50,000 US dollars per person. 30 and 50,000 dollars per person is European GDP per capita. Spain has 32. Greece has 29. Holland has 50. It's just for you to imagine what will happen. So when Anand says nobody will be poor anymore, it means if you calculate the GDP per capita that we will get from our oil income, but it is GDP per capita. That doesn't mean that the richness will also go to the newspaper man. This is important to understand because politicians sometimes think that it will go automatically. When the Nagafa gave a presentation, after that came the president, and the president, I hope he would have said, we will put in a project team and we will work day and night in order for the wisdom that we will get will also go to the newspaper man. But he said, Wanana, don't worry, we will take care that the richness will also go to the newspaper man. How? Right? So it's so easy to say. So how did other countries experience this? How did other countries do this? Because this is not unique. Even though, I must say, Suriname is unique in this situation that we only have 600,000 people. We will quadruple our GDP. Other countries did not. They might even put 50% or 80% on the GDP, but not quadruple, not make it from 5 or 8 to 50 and 60. So before that, I want to say, first give you an experience of the resource curve. Remember, that was for the people to educate. When to have a development of one sector, in our case the oil and gas sector, and we just saw that's not a rapid development, it's a Formula 1 speed development that we are getting. Causes a regression or destruction in other sectors. This is what is happening. This is what we are warning for. If we don't do anything, this is what will happen. And we see it happening in Guyana. People who know Guyana 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they understand. Let me give first the two examples of countries that did very well. But they are completely the opposite. One is Norway. Norway said, Mamma mia, we found oil. What do we do now? And then a smart guy said, let's make a roadmap, and all the money that comes in, we put in a fund, and that fund is allowed to invest everywhere in the world, except not in Norway. Because otherwise we will get too quick a development in Norway. So, but what we will do, we will take a small part of the money, and we will look at our actual sectors and start investing in our sectors to make our original sectors strong. Yeah. Fishery, agriculture, cattle, tourism, and energy. So that is what they did. They were not allowed to spend one penny of the fund into Norway. And now, that fund is the richest fund in the world, and Norwegians are the richest people in the world. And the economy grew very gradual, with 2% and 3%, based on a plan. And they stick to the plan. Another example is Qatar and the Emirates. What did they do? More or less the same. They made a plan, and they said all the money that we will earn will go into a fund. And that fund is allowed to invest only in Qatar. So we will have a massive growth. Qatar was an island of 60,000 Qatarians. They were all pearl fishers and Bedouins. And today, there are 4 million people, 3.8 million of them are immigrants, 200,000 Qatari, but all the Qataris are rich. And all the 3.8 million immigrants earn an awful lot of money. And I know because I also got an offer once in a while from Qatar to do something there. They pay you a very high amount and everything is settled for, but you have a contract with a start date and an end date. And your rights in between and at the end are zero. So at the end of the contract, you have to leave. They made an extremely good plan what kind of immigrants they will get. They said, okay, for the construction workers, we will take these and these and these people. For the medical, we will take people from Europe and from the US. For the technical people, we will take people from wherever. But they made an extremely good plan. And they followed the plan step by step by step. And today, the 200,000 Qatari that are there are all rich. And everybody knows what Qatar looks like. And Qatar was a desert before that. So these are two countries that are completely the opposite, but that follow the plan. So it is important to understand that if you follow a plan, and if you have a plan, you might be okay. But there are also countries that didn't do well. And I took two countries, one Venezuela. Why I took Venezuela and Nigeria? Because Venezuela is the country in South America, even in America, because it has more oil and gas reserves than the United States. Actually, it has even more than Saudi Arabia. But today, 8 out of 10 people in Venezuela go to bed hungry. It's one of the poorest countries on earth for 8 out of 10 people. Do they have a stabilization and sovereign fund? Yes. But what happened is the oil curse hit there extremely hard. And it was even Chavez who tried to get them out. He was a socialist and he did very well in the beginning. But then he killed the oil industry, but had to finance the social program. So also there, it went completely wrong. Nigeria, I don't have to tell you, I mean, corruption there is huge. Really huge. They have a sovereign fund, but it is filled with corruption. They have what I call an institute. The money also flows there to the institute, but nobody knows exactly how much goes in and how much goes to the Minister of Finance. But most probably a lot remains behind. And that is not possible in Suriname because we have staatsolie, and staatsolie is extremely transparent. I have 5 minutes left. Okay, I'm going to push it. So what do we think that we should do as Suriname? We must appoint a project team as soon as possible that will work day and night on a Surinamese roadmap. And I know this government is thinking about it. You know, they understand that if we don't do anything, we might fall into this trap. Because they have Guyana as the good example. A broad social discussion, this is how I call it, because if the plan is not carried by all parties, by the unions, by the politicians, and by the business society, you can make the nicest plans in the world, but it will not work. So we can become Norway or Qatar, but I think we should become a paradise of Suriname. And the paradise of Suriname is somewhere in between, because we have a lot of sectors that are behind. Yes. Education, healthcare, yep. But also infrastructure. So we have to invest in that first, yes, in order to become that paradise where everybody is rich. The big problem is that if we don't do anything this time, because Suriname is very good by not doing anything, it's true. I always say we are the greenest country on earth, not by design, but by default.
Yes. Yes.
But this time, if we do things by default, the oil curse will hit us hard.
Yes.
And I can guarantee you that. Suriname can be a paradise, but it is in our hands this time to be sure that we are. I mean, this is just a phrase. I would say, and if you have any time, this is my nice picture, at the end. This will get you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Elias. We have 2-3 minutes for any pressing questions or comments. And if you have a question, please stand up, give us your name and the organization that you're representing, and then state your question or comment as short and as clearly as possible. We'll take 2 or 3 questions from the audience right now. Who?
No one does.
Yes, 1, 2, 3. We're done. Okay, go ahead. Can you stand up? Everybody who had a question. 1. I saw somebody here. 2, and then yes, 3. Good. Ladies first. Yes.
Cool.
Yes, you're a lady, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Last time I checked, I was. My name's Stephanie from Fernandez Commerce. I kind of feel like I have a little bit of deja vu. We had a panel discussion yesterday about closing the digital gap in Suriname. And one of the things that we talked about was closing that gap by vision, leadership, and collaboration. And one of my questions then was also, okay, what is the vision? How do we implement it? But who decides the vision? And I'm hearing that again this time. It's with this oil and gas. What is the vision? Who implements it? Who decides it? There's so much potential in Suriname, and there's so much that we can do. And I think that roadmap is going to be so essential. But how do we help? I think because we're marketeers, one of the things you were talking about was that newspaper man. How does he know what's happening? How does he become part of that? And how can we play a part in sharing that vision and implementing it?
All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I say, how does it start? How does it start making this? Is that the president just has to walk forward. I made a sheet, a one-sheeter, in order to say why, but not only why, how you should do it, what should be done, and what should you do, Mrs. President. At the moment, it was Mr. President by then. What should you do in order to initiate it? Because it should be, in my view, initiated by the President. The President should come forward and say, I am going to appoint 4 people, and they will make us a roadmap so we don't fall into the oil trap. 4 people. That's it. And Staatsolies should finance it in the beginning, and then the first thing what they should do is they should make the plan, they should look how that it went in other places, and then they should look for finance. Why should Staatsolies finance it? Because if we fall into the oil trap, it's their fault.
All right. So just a little follow-up on this one. The one-sheeter, is that something that you can share? Can that be like put into the public domain? Can you share it on your LinkedIn?
I don't know. I can ask that.
Okay.
But I think we should do that.
Yeah, because some social pressure might help.
Yes. I mean, but so what can you do? Normally, I always, because I also give this presentation to journalists, and I always say, every time that you come into a press meeting with the president or with the minister or whatever, I said, have we started the roadmap? Have we done something to not fall into the resource curse? Because that is the task that you guys have. That is the task that journalists have in Suriname.
Yes.
They should ask,
yes.
and they should continue asking.
Yes.
Okay,
Not
so
ask something and then if you get an answer, like we are walking around it. No, you should keep on asking it.
you have a room full of social media warriors that are going to help this cause. So please try and get that document in the public domain.
Yes.
And we'll get that machine started.
Yes.
All right, we need to get to the second question.
Yes, good morning. Great presentation, thank you. I have actually two questions.
No, you have one question. Choices.
Okay, isn't the main problem that the government should put more rules and regulations for actually the politicians? Because if the funds is up and running, the possibility that, like you said, in Nigeria, corruption will still be there. So what should actually be done so that politicians or nobody is able to actually touch that fund for the oil and gas that will be set up?
I don't quite understand the question.
I think he's asking, like, what can we do to make sure that we protect the fund from any politician that
greedy
might come
politician.
around, that
From the
maybe
greedy
is corrupt.
politician.
So how do we put legislation in place? How do we, like,
Even if there's
ring-fence
legislation,
the
you
fund?
don't follow up.
Yeah, by having people with high integrity running it.
Yes.
But a fund, you know, the problem with a fund that is there by law, like we have, any president can change that with a normal majority. And a president normally has a normal majority. So what they do in the end is they do things like, what do you call that thing that the other government did? Royalties for all and things like that. That is populistic,
Yes.
spending money in order to attract votes. And we did that without having the money. You know, can you imagine
Magic.
when the 7 billion comes in? You know, now I have the money, but it is there in that fund. How do I get to that fund? Change the law.
Yes.
So when we have this roadmap, and based on the roadmap, we make a fund, we make an immigration law, and we make a local content law, because please let us not make a local content law that is based on nothing. That is based on people that are sitting in a room, and it is not based on a roadmap. A local content law should be based on a plan.
Yes.
Because only then can you make a good local content law, but also a good fund. And then say that roadmap and the 3 laws that are made from that
Yes.
can only be changed by 2/3 of majority.
In Parliament, right?
And then you have a law that might
Be robust.
be robust enough because people are smart. You know?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we even give stuff away that we don't have yet. It's magic. Okay. Yes, sir.
Donovan from the Nationale Milieu Autoriteit. Just a simple question. With this development, our financial portfolio will grow immensely, like what you said. What is your opinion or your vision of including green assets as one of the major portfolio also now in the growing development?
This is how it all started. So 9 years ago, when we said that we wanted to go and find oil offshore, we knew that this wealth would come. And I'm a runner, so I run at least 3-4 times a week, and I have a lot of friends who run with me. And one of my friends was John. In order to have the money that we will make with the jungle, this is 9 years ago, with the jungle, in order to preserve it, because oil is finite, but the only infinite thing that we have is our biodiversity. It's not carbon and carbon credits, that's also finite, but biodiversity is infinite. So if we protect, we take part of the money and we protect that, and that is how it all started. You know, it all started with coming into a commission, thinking about it, and then we were assisted by COP26. In COP26, the articles in the Paris Agreement were changed such that Suriname can now, as a sovereign state, take their own carbon negativity and try to monetize them. The problem with that is that there is so much money involved, that everybody wants to jump on it. And that's a little bit the problem because there are still no laws about carbon credit. But again, if I hear this president talking, she talks about her speech in the United Nations was really nice. In the last 5 minutes was all about nature, it was all about nature laws, it was all about inclusivity from the tribals and the indigenous people. So I see light at the end of the tunnel.
All right. I think that's a wonderful note to end on, ladies and gentlemen. Please help me thank Mr. Rudolf Elias for his presentation.
We praten al heel lang in mijn programma over roadmap. En het is er nog steeds niet van gekomen.
All right. Mr. Elias, I don't have a question, but I do have a concern/comment, and I would like your commitment on what I'm about to ask you on behalf of this entire room. Yes, we had a meeting about it just a second ago. You didn't see it, magic. But you talked about this one sheeter that you put forward to leadership of the country. And I asked you, can you see if you can make that document available to the public? Can you make that one sheeter available to us, put it in the public domain so that we can help with some social pressure to really get answers to what is happening with those key points that you put in the one sheeter. Now the one sheet that you have right now might be a bit technical, so I'm going to ask you to make a version that is understandable by the newspaper guy, so everybody on Facebook and all the other social media platforms can really start cranking up the pressure and keep asking those questions, because it's not just about us, it's about the future of the country.
Yes, and our generation.
If you can give us your commitment that you're going to try and put this in the public domain, we would be very appreciative. He said, I will. Like I asked him to marry me. Like, I will. Yes, all right. Good. Thank you. We have a lot more to get to today. We have a few sessions that are going to start in like 5 minutes. We have one session that's going to start here, one session that's going to start in the banquet hall, and we have a session across the street at the studio. So please make sure that you check where your next session is going to be, and we're going to start those sessions up in 5 minutes. So if you need to go to another location, you are dismissed.
Ik heb er al zo vaak 3 jaar geleden mee bezig om awareness te brengen. Daarna dat ik ook ben geweest naar Kudipsing offshore base. En we gaan naar de volgende, is de nieuwe haven om te kijken. We zijn 2 dagen prepared. Die roadmap, je weet, hebben we vaak gezegd, blauwdruk noemen wij het. Zo jonge vat in de programma's. Wat is onze blauwdruk? Waar gaan we naartoe? Het blijft toch belangrijk. Je moet een doel hebben. Waar werk je naartoe? Later weer bij u terug. Ciao, ciao.